Again for joining the Alicia May channel. Today I want to talk about foods, about our diet. So I have done videos about teas and other natural remedies to help with allergies and to any type of other issues that you may have. With that being said, again, I put out this disclaimer: I'm not a medical professional or even a naturopath. These are things that I've done for myself and that has helped me. And part of what I have done is going back to the Word of God and doing things that he said that we should do, following his rules, his laws, his commandments. And I know that so many believe that, oh, we don't have to follow the laws of God because we are under grace since Jesus went to the cross for us. My first statement to that is, if we are not beholden to the laws, then why do you follow the 10 commandments? Because those were given to Moses in Old Testament. And if Jesus had diminished all of the laws and that you're just under grace, when you automatically became saved, then why do you obey the 10 commandments? We as people cannot pick and choose what we obey and what we don't obey. As a matter of fact, I'm going to debunk that theory that we are not beholden to the laws of God, that we don't have to obey the laws, and that we are free to do whatever and just be like, thank God that we're under grace. Because in Matthew 5, and I have my Bible, and if we turn to Matthew 5, you can make a note of it and read it later. But in Matthew 5, verses 17 to 19, Jesus clearly stated, he is speaking. And he says, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. He came to fulfill his portion of law that was prophesied by the prophets of old. To fulfill his portion of law, but not to destroy the law at all. It was to fulfill prophecy. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. So all the laws have to be fulfilled. Everything has to be done. Nothing will pass. Because as I said, he said it in 17. He didn't come to destroy the law. So that means you and I must still be uphold and obey the laws of God and do them as he has said in Genesis through Revelations. If you're reading the Apocrypha, even better, get King James 16:11. I encourage everyone to have a copy of it and to read it, because it makes it fills in some of the holes that you may have questions about. 19, whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. Let me just stop right there. So I grew up in church. So growing up in church, you sit there, you listen, you hear what the minister is saying, and then we take it as straight as, we don't question. A lot of times we don't question it. But even as a child, I would be like reading my Bible. I'd be at home, I'll be in my room, I'd be like, God, this is what they said in church today, but this is not what your word is actually saying. So help me out here. And as an adult, I'll be in the car. I'll be in the car and I'll be like, that's not fully, let me research that. And I'm like, that's not that. I don't remember reading it exactly like that, the way how it's preached. So here it is, it's saying that any one of those that not teach it the way that God has written it, he's saying they are considered the least in their kingdom. So unfortunately, a lot of churches, you've been doing a disservice to us as the church community, the church that is first of all, the church is within us, that we are the church that's within us. So when you go to that building and you're listening to your pastor, your evangelist, or whoever you're listening to, it's important for you to go back and to read the word for yourself and ask God to help you to have that knowledge, that understanding, and that wisdom that you need to just, to break down his word. Because it's very clear, because I'm reading you the words. I'm not just speaking from myself. I'm reading you his words in Matthew 5:17. And then it goes on to say, but whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Again, that's Matthew 5 verses 17 to 19, which clearly states, and Jesus is saying it himself, because it's in red, that He did not come to destroy the law. So that means you and I need to obey the laws of God in order to be successful, in order to be healthy, in order to achieve all that He has preordained for us to receive on this earth. So with that being said, when it comes to our diet, it clearly tells us how to eat in Leviticus chapter 11. And I'm not going to read Leviticus, the whole chapter of Leviticus for you, but I am letting you know that it tells us the foods that we should eat and that we shouldn't eat, as far as when it comes to meat and fish and poultry. We can eat as much of the fresh fruits and vegetables upon the earth, which is really good. There's no law against you having a salad for breakfast. You can have that. I try to incorporate vegetables in all of my meals, whether I have it in juice form or whether I'm eating it as a salad or as cooked vegetables. I try my best to incorporate it because, one, you're getting the fiber from the fresh fruits and vegetables that's going to help to keep your colon clean. Most people don't even realize that your colon can hold up to 25 pounds of waste per day. Because if you're only going once per day, yes, that's good, but it's not optimal. You should be going after every major meal, because if your body is like, if your digestive system is running like a well-oiled digestive system, well-oiled machine, your body processes the food that it needs and uses that nutrients that for what it wants, and what it doesn't want, it expels it. And it will do that with every major meal that you have. It should happen within 30 minutes to an hour or so of you having. Some people can be, if your system is even, as I said, depending on how well it can happen within 15 minutes of you finish eating that meal, that you go like, okay, my body processed what it needed, and okay, it doesn't need this, so hey, I'm going to expel it, and that you get rid of it you don't need. To go in further with, in Leviticus 11, it tells us the food that we shouldn't eat. It tells us not to eat pork for a reason. Number one, pigs don't have sweat glands. So whatever, and they not only do they not have sweat glands, but they eat everything. So whatever, because they also don't have sweat glands, that means whatever that pig consumes, whatever is in the air or the elements, that pig, it goes into the flesh of that pig. So no amount of cooking can get rid of that. It's part of the pig's meat. So you having that ham or that bacon or those ribs or whatever part of the pig you like to eat, you're not consuming it. And you wonder why, especially within our communities, within the Black community, high blood pressure is a big deal. Diabetes is a big deal. You have cancers and so forth because of the things that you're consuming. If you're consuming the things that God says that you shouldn't be eating, and if you dig deep into it, when you look to see like, okay, pigs don't have sweat glands. Everything they consume is in that meat. So that means you're consuming it. That means you're consuming everything that pig is eating. Same thing with shellfish. You can eat fish as long as those fish have scales and fin. Then you can have. So you can have that red snapper. You can have that grouper. You can have that sea bass. But you can't have the catfish. Sorry. You can't have the catfish. Why? Also, catfish is a bottom feeder. It helps to clean the sea. It's one of those things that clean the sea. It's just like lobster, crab, clams. They're hard shelled. They clean the sea. Which means whatever garbage they're taking up is going into the meat. I know it's hard because usually the stuff that's bad for you be tasting so good. But all of that gook that is taken up is what you are consuming in your body. That's causing sicknesses and diseases. But it goes back to also said the laws of God. See, God says, he that meditates on his law day and night, Psalms 1, he that meditates on his law day and night shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water. Meaning that all of the blessings, all of the things that God has for us and that he has preordained for us, because in Ephesians he said that we have been blessed with all blessings. So blessed, blessed, we were already blessed with all blessings. So everything that God had intended for us to have before we were even formed in the womb, it is for us. But in order for us to receive that, we have to adhere to his laws, his rules, his commandments. And what are those? That's everything from Genesis to Revelation, along with what he personally tells you to do. You know what that is. When you're in your prayer time, when you're communing with God, when you're meditating, you're just talking with him, and he puts something in your spirit or show you something in your dreams. And he's saying that, okay, this is something, he's giving you some personal direction. That's a commandment. That's a rule. That's a principle that he's giving you personally to do. And if you don't obey that, then you're in breach. And he tells us about breaches. He says in Isaiah 59 verses 1-2, he said, because of your iniquity, there's a breach between you and I. Okay, there's a breach, which means there's an injunction. I can't do what I have promised you because there's an injunction. So whenever there is an injunction, he can't help you. He can't do anything. But what that also does, it opens up the door for Satan to come in and wreak havoc in our lives. And that comes with sickness and diseases. So you see, that comes with sickness and disease, because you see, if you go to Proverbs 26 verse 2, he said the curse is caused with a curse cannot come on you without cause. It speaks about that. I'm paraphrasing, but he said, if without cause, without foundation, a curse cannot take you. So you cannot open the door as long as you're in line with God's commandment, his rules and his regulations, then you can't be cursed. You cannot open the door to the things that Satan and the kingdom of darkness brings to you. And I'm speaking very plain because it's very true. In Leviticus, the things that he said that you should not eat, he said it's an abomination. What does abomination mean? It means death. Does it mean that, okay, you go and you have some shrimp today, or you go have a piece of ham, that you're going to drop that immediately? No. But what does happen is that you open the door for the spirit of death to come into your life. You see, Paul gave a lot of insight into the spirit, because everything happens spiritually first before it happens in the physical. And he speaks to us in, as I think it is, actually is in 1 Corinthians. I'm giving you scripture so that you can read on your own and don't think that I'm just saying this just to say this. He talks about this in 1 Corinthians 2 verses, if you read verses 13 through 15, he talks about saying the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, and that they are foolishness. So basically he's saying, if you don't realize, he's talking to the church of Corinth. He's like saying, and that means he's talking to us too. He's talking to the Christian. He's talking to those of us who believes in the Most High, that if you don't understand that things are spiritual before they're physical, then you're foolish. Then you are really being a fool. And that is in 1 Corinthians 2 verses 13 through 15. And you can, as I said, you can read this for yourself, because I don't want to make this video too long. So when you do things that are against the will of God, and he says it commits an abomination, that means you are opening doors to the spirit of death. And with the spirit of death, that means you're giving access to other spirits of Satan, of evil into your life, which includes the spirits of infirmity. And what does the spirits of infirmity? That includes cancer, that includes diabetes, that includes high blood pressure. Look at your family line and look at your family tree and see the things that are flowing through your bloodline as far as sicknesses and diseases, and go research it, and then you'll see, okay, what act of disobedience did I do that's against what God has said that we're supposed to be, that we should be doing, that open the door to these spirits to come in. So as I said, when it comes to food, I'm going to break it down again. Even with swine, if you look at ancient history, some of the things, the rituals, especially with ancient Rome, Babylonian history, the pig was used at feast and festival to other gods as offerings to other gods. So what do you think happens? Remember, God is a covenant making God. If you look in Genesis, you see where he's making a covenant with Abraham. He's making a covenant with Isaac. He makes a covenant with Jacob. He continues the covenants of the Father. He comes and revisits them. Same thing happens in the demonic world with Satan and his agent. They cannot they cannot impact your life unless there's a covenant of some sort. So when you're, as I said, when you go against the laws of God, then you're giving a gateway to Satan. And just like how the pig was using every animal, every item that was mentioned in Leviticus 11 that you should not eat, becomes a gateway in the kingdom of darkness, in the kingdom of Satan. Okay, so pigs were used at feast, and it was used as a form of sacrifice. The same thing that was done with shellfish. I know you love that shrimp, that crab, and the lobster, and the scallops, and all of that, but they were used. If you in ancient Roman times, they when they would have certain to do offerings to water marine spirits. You see, we watch television all the time, but Hollywood knows the Bible more than those who should know it. And they feed it to us as entertainment every single day. Hollywood would have Leviathan, and Leviathan is known as the king of the sea. He's known as the king of the sea and the king of pride. And that was and he was mentioned in Job. He's mentioned in Isaiah. He's mentioned in Leviticus. He's mentioned also in Jeremiah. So, but he's presented us in a really nice, pretty package in Hollywood, as Poseidon. Who you think Poseidon was? Poseidon is Leviathan that the Bible speaks about. That's who Poseidon is. Poseidon in Little Mermaid that your children be watching and love. That was Ariel's father. That is Leviathan that the Bible speaks about. You see how clever Hollywood is, and how they feed you the Bible every day, but they feed it to you like it's entertainment, just as an FYI. So the parts of the and also the parts of the animals in which we're not supposed to, even those foods, even the animals that we can eat, but there are certain parts of it we shouldn't eat. Like, you're not supposed to be eating the organs. See, when God gave instructions about doing the sacrifices, before Jesus, they would do the sacrifices. The priests would the priests were instructed on how to kill the animal and how they were supposed to be, what parts were placed on the altar. Now, the intestines, like the kidney, the liver, what you call with the intestines, which is what is called chitlins for the pig, and in goat it'd be called the tripe. If you're from the Caribbean, you're gonna say tripe, but in the African American community, you say chitlins for pork intestine. You weren't supposed to eat that because why? Because those things were also used in rituals to other gods. They were used as sacrifices to other gods. If you watch I watch personally a lot of historical series. So there's a series called Rome that came out in the early 2000s that you can still see on Prime and Amazon Prime today. And you see where they would walk by, like the butcher bee, they would take like the organs and they would put it on their daily altar to burn as a sacrifice to whichever god that they're worshiping at that particular time, whether if it was a soldier that was making an offering to the god of war, or when they would pray to their gods of war. Even in Viking series, you would see this. Before they would go off to war, they would do certain blood sacrifices with the organs, or you'll see that chief chain that of the Viking warriors would take like the liver or the heart, and they would just eat it. Because why? Because it goes against, it's considered an abomination. Anything that's considered abomination against the laws of God brings power in the kingdom of darkness. And so that's what they were doing, because they were summoning these demons to assist them in war. Okay, to assist them in war. Whereas in biblical time, when they would do sacrifices unto the Lord, the Most High God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, they were summoning God and his army. They were coming to the Most High God and his angels to come into battle when they would set up the altars. So it's the same thing that's done in the kingdom of Satan. If Satan imitates God's word, God wrote the rule book. So God have to obey, and so does Satan have to obey the rules, but he does the opposite of what God said is in favor of him, and Satan does what is out of favor with God. And that's when you do things that's out of favor with God, you're giving Satan that permission. So you'll see it, as I said, you see it on TV because it's fed to you every day. You just don't even realize that it's fed to you because you're not, because most of us are not reading the word. We're just paying attention to what the pastor will say, not realizing that the Bible tells us we should study and show ourselves approved. In Hosea, it tells us that my people perish for lack of knowledge. But it also tells us in Proverbs, it tells us through knowledge shall the just be delivered. And so here I'm imparting some knowledge to you today about food, about the laws of food and the laws in general, that we should be paying attention to the laws in general. But I'm starting today with the laws of food and how it can benefit our lives, and how to keep sicknesses and diseases away from our community, how to eliminate it. Because you can start today by renouncing, reject diabetes, reject high blood pressure, reject cancer. As for us, for Black women, we need to reject fibroids, because a lot of this comes from, people forget that, fibroids comes from eating a lot of fried food. You're eating all of that fried food, consuming a lot of sugar, you're not getting enough vitamin D, which is in green leafy vegetables. A lot of that is in green leafy vegetables. Yes, you can get it from going outside in the sun for 10-15 minutes, but you really need to consume it into green leafy vegetables. And I would encourage everyone to incorporate vegetables with all of your meals. If you don't like eating it, then drink it, because you only need to drink that much. If you can get in 2 to 4 ounces per, like several times a day, even if you try to get that 2 to 4 ounces in, even twice a day, you're doing your body a world of good, because you need that, and that will help you to get rid of those fibroids, to get rid of to help eliminate having cancers in your body. Because a well oxygenated body, which you get from leafy greens, which you get from fresh fruits and from those fresh fruits and from those fresh vegetables, is what helps to oxygenate our body, because disease cannot live in a well oxygenated body. And that's why God tells us to eat the way he does, the way he tells us to eat. Try to eliminate that sugar, because one of the ways to quickly, we're all about buying a bunch of creams and products to help us to stay looking young and to not to be aging. Let me tell you, what are the things that age you really quick? Sugar ages you. Artificial sugar ages you. Even sugar ages you. Caffeine ages you. It's great to put it on the skin, but consuming it ages you, because it dehydrates you. It dries you out. The other thing that ages you is alcohol. I know some of you are like hating me right now, but yes, alcohol does age you. I do enjoy a glass of wine or a cocktail, once in a while, but I try to limit it. Why? Because it dehydrates you and it ages you. Is one of the things that helps to age you. So those 3 main things, if you can minimize those 3 things, and to take control of your diet. And just as I said, if you consume a lot of fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, eat the meats and the fish that God says that you're supposed to consume, you won't have a lot of health. You won't have the health issues that you may have been seeing that's running through your community, that's running through your family line. And you'll find that even a change, even if you have those have any of those ailments, you'll find that there's like a vast improvement to where you may not have to be on medication anymore, and your doctor's going to be like, oh, well, you're pretty good now. You're in good health. And it's just, as I said, is in obeying the laws of God, because it is even scripture that says that I will remove the sickness and diseases I remove all the sickness and the diseases from you and put them on your enemies. And I will put them on your enemy. But in order to do that, it said you earnestly have to obey all my commandments. Obey all my commandments, and I will not put the sicknesses and diseases that on you. Just a thing. Just something you should know. So I'd like to thank everyone today for tuning in. And until next time, have a blessed day.